Croeso, this is James, aka JP Harker, coming to you with another video. This one is going to be fun. It is two books that are about the same book, The Princess Bride and As You Wish. The Princess Bride by S. Morgenstern, as interpreted by William Goldman, and As You Wish, Inconceivable Tales from the Making of the Princess Bride by Carrie Elwes. Now, if you are unfamiliar with The Princess Bride, educate yourself, right? Because if you don't know The Princess Bride, life has passed you by. I will accept that not everyone's read the book, but if you haven't seen the film, really get your life in order. I will be speaking about the book in this, though. I'll limit how much I'm going. Oh, of course, in the film it was like this. But I'll start off by talking about the book. Now, The Princess Bride, it is written as if the book itself was written by S. Morgenstern, who is an historian more than anything else and is interested in the history of this fictional country of Florin, and the fact that these adventurous things have happened as well is almost of secondary consideration. And it's written by William Goldman, who's also a screenwriter for the film, and it's written as if he is taking that and heavily editing it to make it into an adventure story. And we have loads and loads of sort of little notes from him saying, Florin was the mightiest country in such and such. This was before there was Europe. They were eating stew. This was after stew. They were having their hair cut. Since there have been women, there have been hairdressers. And little things like that. But it's also got larger things like Humperdinck's first fiancée. The story stops, and Goldman says, at this point, Morgenstern went off for 57 pages about her hats and about how she unpacked them. Apparently this was brilliant political satire, but I've decided to cut it out for the sake of time. And a few little things like that. And he focuses on the central story, which is Buttercup, who is the most beautiful girl in the world. After a certain few of them either put on weight or die, it is stated quite amusingly how. She's in love with the farm boy Wesley. Wesley goes off to seek his fortune and is ambushed and killed by the dread pirate Roberts. Buttercup is then forcibly betrothed to Prince Humperdinck, and not long after her betrothal, she is kidnapped by three roguish types. And watch the film, read the book, it's absolutely fantastic. But what's interesting about the book as opposed to the film is Humperdinck in the film is understandably fairly two-dimensional, whereas in this he's the greatest hunter in the world and has a circus of death underneath the castle where all sorts of different dangerous animals are kept so that he can hunt them in the privacy of his own home. And he sort of wrestles orangutans and things like that. And what's the note I made? Ah, yes. Things that can't translate well into film, we have in the prose. So Buttercup is lamenting being engaged to Humperdinck and reminds herself she is the most beautiful woman in the world and is about to become the richest and most powerful woman in the world. She'd always heard you shouldn't expect too much out of life and should just be satisfied with what you have. And it's full of that kind of dry, not off the cuff, but aside wit, the sort of thing that's almost like a little fourth wall break by the characters, as opposed to the actual fourth wall breaks by the author. And it's just a really fun story. The fencing, which you'd think doesn't work well when written down, is brilliant, because we have Indigo, this fencing wizard, talking about things blow by blow, but in a way that's interesting. You have his history, you have Bezzic's history, and in short, this is like the film, but fun in a different way, but just as fun. If you don't know the film, you can probably still enjoy this anyway as a bit of light-hearted, semi-satirical, semi-lampooning of fantasy, but still with a good enough story. And that's, I think, one of the things that a lot of spoofs and lampoons miss, is in their effort to subvert the genre they're talking about, they end up forgetting that, no, this should also be a good story. Stardust is another good example where Gaiman is deliberately undermining a lot of what would be expected of a fairy tale, but is still committed to writing a good fairy tale. And that's how this works. And it's, well, a side note, it's why the film didn't work so well in the box office. It's hugely popular now, but the studios didn't know how to market it, because is it a serious adventure or is it a lampoon? And the answer is it's both, and it does that brilliantly. The film does it brilliantly, and the book does it brilliantly. So I've probably praised this enough. Can't praise this enough. But I've probably praised it enough for one video. The Princess Bride, strongly, strongly recommend. Great book. Another book that I will strongly recommend is As You Wish, which is Cary Elwes's Inconceivable Tales, from where they had made the film. Now, I've probably told this before, I can always tell a brilliant, brilliant book where I will search for an excuse just to read a couple of pages. I know some people, they prefer to set aside a chunk of time and think, I will dedicate this half hour, this hour, to really getting into this book. And that's how they define really wanting to lose themselves in something. Partly by necessity, because I have a 2-year-old, and partly just by habit, I find dipping in for a few pages whenever I can, that's the sign that you really want to get into this one. You can't stay away from it. And if there's been a day where you haven't read it, you get irritable. You're like, no, just a couple. And that's how I was with this. Cary Elwes, to what extent the prose style is purely his own, I don't know, because it does say with Joe Layden, and he does give credit to a lot of people for helping him with it. But the prose style that it's written in is very, very good, very humble, very accessible, and filled with anecdotes that tend to play his own role and his own coolness down. He's often speaking about how stupid he's been or how naive he's been about something. And the format is that, as well as having the main blocks of text, I'm not sure how well you can see that, we have these little sidebar sections where other members of the cast and crew have given little bits of commentary to do with whatever's in that chapter. So, tragically, obviously, we don't have Andre the Giant, who tragically died very young. But we have people like Robin Wright. We have Mandy Patinkin. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing his name. Mandy Patinkin. We have Rob Renner. We have Andy Schleiman. We have Miracle Max, whose name escapes me. But they are all doing their own little bits here and there, and it's fun because you're seeing what Cary Elwes remembers, and then you're seeing what they saw of it. So that's really good. The anecdotes themselves, they're brilliant. I mean, for a start, we have the fact that Cary Elwes got the interview for this when he was filming somewhere in Berlin, and it was shortly after Chernobyl. And the people coming to him were a little bit nervous, and he was a little bit nervous being there, but he'd been told, you're far enough away, you'll be fine. Wonderfully casual way of looking at it. And he sort of gets the role. And he gets the role because he's funny. He looks, as anyone who's seen Cary Elwes knows, he looks very handsome. He looks like a dashing hero. He's able to play a dashing hero, as has been seen in his other work. But he's also very funny. He loves comedy. And he's British, but spent a lot of his time in America. And he loves the comedy shows from both sides. He loved, probably not good to look at it now, but he loved The Cosby Show. And he loved Not the 9 O'Clock News. He was the only one who knew Mel Smith. And he loved Fawlty Towers and the Pythons, and so did Robin Wright. And so they thought, this is the perfect mix. We've got the dashing hero and we've got the humour, and it worked perfectly. But Cary Elwes doesn't talk himself up about it. He's saying, here's what other people said. I doubted myself throughout. I kept thinking I'd be replaced. I did this stupid thing where I broke my toe. Not in a Viggo Mortensen style, this guy fell off a quad bike. But yeah, that made it really good to read, the fact that he was writing it in a humble way. And for the anecdotes themselves, we have initially when he was going to dive into the lightning sand, the script was he sort of holds his nose and dives feet first. And he sort of watched it done by the stuntman and said, okay, I'll step in and do mine, and then thought, wouldn't it be more heroic if I just dived in head first? It'd look a lot better, wouldn't it? And had this long argument where they said, mate, that's a sheet of plywood under a foot of sand. If the trapdoor opens at the wrong time, you're going to smash your skull in. But he just argues and argues and argues, and the stuntman says, oh, we'll give it a go, we'll give it a go. And the scene that we wind up with is brilliant. We have Wesley seeing the Princess Buttercup falling into the lightning sand and going, huh. And it works brilliantly, and little things like that are fantastic. The fencing that they spent 4 months practicing for and spent every spare moment of their time training for. They got onto set, went through it all, and then between them decided, wouldn't it be fun if we sort of went up the stairs and then did a swing off that pole and we could land there? Yeah, I could do that, and then you could follow me. Yeah, oh, and I'd one up it. I'd show off. I'd spin around an extra one and land there. Oh, what should we do here? Oh, maybe if we dance up there and this. And I love that it all got included and it all made the whole thing better. And yeah, a thing that's really interested me was a fellow Wally. So I can't for the life of me think of his surname. The gentleman who played Vicini. What was his name? It was Wally something or other. Apologies, I should have noted that down. He wasn't the first choice. He'd heard, rather, that he wasn't the first choice for Vicini and that they'd wanted Danny DeVito. And because of that, he spent the whole production convinced he was going to lose his job. And at no point in his performance do you think this man is giving it anything but his all, or this man is anything but inhabiting the character. But apparently all through the shoot he was convinced he was doing terribly, and any minute now they were going to realise what a dreadful mistake they'd made, and they're going to get rid of me. And you watch the performance and you think, this is fantastic. How are you doubting yourself? Not only that, apparently he is a genius and lectures at Oxford and had to take a day off to go and do that. So, yeah, I just thought, wonderful little tidbits of information. Things like Andre the Giant, wonderful, sort of gentle giant that he was, using his hand as a hat for Robin Wright when it was damp and cold, and just warming her because he was massive. And I absolutely loved that. I loved how heartfelt it all was. You can tell that Cary Elwes yearns after this time. I suspect yearns after Robin Wright a little bit. They were rather smitten with one another. But it's so clear how much love he had for what went into this, and how much love they all had for what went into this. And that makes watching it that much better. Sometimes in that separating art from artist notion, you'll watch something, find out actually they hated filming this, the cast hated each other, and it will slightly sour things. This is such a wholesome film, and it's so good to know that everyone loved it so much when they were crafting this together. And he still finds it slightly surreal how unbelievably loved it became, to the point that Pope John Paul II has seen it and recognised him from it, and Bill Clinton knew him from it, and apparently he and Chelsea Clinton knew the film back to front. So, yes, I've gushed quite a bit about this book, as I've gushed quite a bit about this book, but I just enjoyed it so much. It was such a lovely reading experience. So, if you have any experience of reading The Princess Bride or watching The Princess Bride, follow it up by getting this. I can definitely recommend. I infuriated my wife by stopping every few minutes to go, did you know this? And hopefully you can infuriate those in your own lives as well. And I like to think that I'll bring that into your lives. your partners can thank me for it. I'm going to round off this video here. The Princess Bride by S. Morgenstern, aka William Goldman, and As You Wish by Carrie Elwes. Go and read them. They are absolutely great. I had a blast with them. I hope you will as well. Shall leave it there. This is James, aka JP Harker. Well.